Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Daily Sip. Really excited to have Kelly on the show. Thank you for joining me today, Kelly.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And so we just had a little brief chat before, just to make sure we're going to be able to cover all the diverse topics that you bring. Really, I think it's quite amazing how many parts. Obviously there's a disability part. You've got SMA, like I've got. You've got type
Yeah.
3. I've got type 2. You've been involved in businesses around talent management and more recently parenting. So there's a lot to cover today, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot to get through today. I've definitely been busy.
Definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, as I say, I always get people just to kick off with a few sort of bit of background, like where you're from, and things you've done maybe study wise or generally like growing up with a disability. Just some thoughts on that would be great, just to kick us off, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from the Midlands, as you can probably tell by my glamorous accent.
Very glamorous.
Just outside of Birmingham. I've got SMA, as you said. I'm a full-time electric wheelchair user. And growing up with a disability, I think it's taught me a lot. I think, as we were just briefly touching upon, it's kind of a journey for everybody, really.
Yeah.
And I think mine, in terms of studying, things like that, I was just at school a bit sort of rebellious, like we were discussing, going out, caring more about socializing, drinking, things like that than studying as such. So I pretty much went from that straight into the world of work. I love working. I love getting involved in any sort of projects, and more recently sort of charity bits as well. And I think my disability and overcoming those boundaries and things really helped me into sort of the world of being, I suppose, an entrepreneur and having so many different ideas and things to do. So I think it's benefited me more than anything, really.
Yeah, because I mean, it'd be interesting what you think entrepreneurship is, because it's one of those words that gets bounded around a lot more lately in a trendy way. And 20 years ago, it maybe wasn't as cool to be an entrepreneur. It was just a thing.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
for you, what is entrepreneurship?
I think entrepreneurship to me is just being able to see opportunity in everything that you do. I don't think it means that you've like invented a product or started something. I think it's just that ability and that drive to like see what's going on and get involved and sort of make it your own. Because I wouldn't say like I'm a crazy like business mind or an inventor or anything, but it's just that ability to be flexible and work with people and connect people as well, which I think in the disability market is huge, being able to get people to connect and realize that people are going through similar things as well.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, it's a lot about problem solving. And I think, as you mentioned, when you have a disability, maybe problem's a bit of an emotive word, but there's certainly a lot of challenges compared to not being a wheelchair user. And so we have to do this problem solving every day just to live. So when it comes to business, we're quite, like thinking out of the box, as you say, bringing people together with communication skills. And I think you're right that the two have similar skill sets, really.
Definitely, communication becomes the main thing, because you often need to communicate to people what your needs are or how to get things done. And if you don't, then sometimes you can end up not doing a lot in general life, let alone in business. Like I found that sort of asking for help and things, it took me a long time to come to terms with that and get to grips with that. And I think that's a battle for so many people, disabled or not, really, is saying what they need and being able to accept that.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a lot come up in the Daily Sib interviews around identity, and obviously regarding disability as well. That there's it. So I mean, there are some people that are constantly, always not wanting to embrace their difference, and others that own it and love the fact that they're different. But I also think when you go through life as an individual, you can experience both as one person as well. Like, how have you sort of identified as being disabled over your life? Has it changed over the years?
I think probably, as you will, maybe identify with as well. Having SMA, obviously having more of a muscle wastage condition, it's so, I think in the younger years, progressive, or at least it was for me. So I was always dealing with change and always dealing with like the next thing I couldn't do or had to get around, you know what I mean? So I think those first years, and especially going into secondary school, I was so self-conscious and aware of my disability, and because of that, I think that was sort of my main focus. And I moved away from disabled people completely, which is pretty hard, seeing as my brother's has got SMA as well, so we've both got SMA. It was just the comments, and I don't think we've gone a massive way since then, but we've come some way in that we don't get as many comments now as we used to. I think if I was out with my brother, sometimes, you know, I'd be like, oh God, they're going to think like we're dating, or they're going to think, because those are the comments we'd get, or that we were twins, or just random stuff that you just don't say to people. And that made me self-conscious as well as a young teen. And then obviously you've got the world of dating people and getting your own image and your own identity, which is hard enough at that age without disability into the mix as well. So I think I have a lot of regrets from that age, but also it's your own journey, isn't it? It's how you find yourself. So
yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, there's a few different things you said that we're going to go deeper on, but I think if we sort of go with the entrepreneurship stuff and the career stuff first, and because you just mentioned like dating and relationships, we'll come on to that a little bit later as well. So yeah, like just chat a bit more about work. So what were the first kind of work you did? What were the challenges? Were there any challenges because of your disability? And yeah, just it'd be great to hear a bit more about the world of work.
Yeah, I think definitely there was, and I think there still is. I was so keen to get into work because I just didn't glue with education at all. And my parents were very
naughty, right? Too rebellious.
Too rebellious, yeah. But my parents were always, you know, if you want to leave college, you want to do this. It didn't matter what course I was doing. They just wanted me to stay in school. You need to get a job. If you want to leave, you need to get a job. So I was looking for anything, and being quite defiant in my older age, I was like, I can do retail, I can do anything. And, you know, you don't see the barriers because you know how you can do it. But then there's so many CVs that get sent out. It gets disheartening. You don't get any replies. You have no experience. You're young. You know, companies are looking for staff all the time that can do those jobs, but they don't necessarily think of getting a disabled person involved, especially I think a wheelchair user in that environment. So I was really keen, but nobody would take a chance on me. So then I managed to get my first job in the NHS, actually, as a doctor receptionist. And from there, I was just so keen to learn and sort of develop. And I'd always sort of, you know, at the start it was in a call centre in the NHS, and I'd like take the patient's calls and take their problems super seriously and like get really involved, and I just absolutely loved it. And from there I did go back into learning as well, typically, which is a bit strange, seeing as I said I didn't get on with education.
It shows when it's a topic you're interested or there's an incentive. Like, I don't think people either do binary love or hate education. I think it's a bit contextual as well, right?
Definitely, yeah. And like you say, if it's to get you to the next place in your career or something like that, then it's definitely worth doing as well. I think because I could see the point in doing it and I was interested in it, it helped me. So I did my medical terminology, and then I started. I was a prescription clerk for quite a number of years doing prescriptions, and really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. But then I never sit still on one thing for very long. So then I went into the world of concierge, which is a completely different kettle of fish.
So how did you get into that then?
Well, a local company that I sort of knew was starting a concierge business. So I started to work with them again as a receptionist. And then I think I just really enjoy whatever sort of industry, having like a good rapport with clients. So I just really, I'd work all hours of the day, sort of going the extra mile to help people. And I think no matter what industry I'm in, that's kind of the end goal, is to help people with what they need, which is why I've kind of gone into the care side of things now as well. So yeah, it's all loosely linked, I suppose.
It is, isn't it? When you look back, you can often see how each step helped lead to the next one, and it all kind of makes a bit of sense in a way. Whereas when you're going through it, it seems chaotic and at times a bit scary. And, you know, and I did some work experience. I did a job in HR, which wasn't my background. And then I eventually got more into the marketing and finally doing what I do now, which is very like marketing and media. But it's, it's certainly a roller coaster, not a straight line to get where you want to go. Yeah,
definitely. I think a lot of the times you don't expect where you're going to end up either.
No, that's so true, so true. So tell us a bit more about the care. You're saying about the care job you're doing now. What's that involved?
Yeah, so the company that I work for at the moment is Care Preference, and they're just absolutely fantastic. They really did sort of change my life, which is why I was so keen to get involved. They provide PAs for people with disabilities, but it's not just like your average agency or pop-in care. We literally match the people to the people looking for PAs, and we make sure that it's sort of a perfect fit and everybody has their own team, so there's not much cross-team working, so you can always kind of rely on having your own people and doing your own rotas, and it just gives you all that freedom, especially when you're traveling for work, or you know, you need overnights, things that people don't think about often when it comes to disability. I think people assume that, you know, that pop-in will do, that people are okay to wait around and not go out. And I think you get that a lot with appointments and stuff as well, that are disability related. They almost think that you've got all the time in the world and you're not going anywhere. And we don't see it like that. We allow flexibility. We allow last minute changes. Our PAs travel with people, sometimes to different countries for weeks on end, but we've got the flexibility to offer that service, which is something that I thought was really different and really interesting as a disabled person.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, the whole dynamic around care PAs. I mean, it's you and I were saying before we came on the live that, you know, having them is such a liberating thing, that you more enabled to be independent, and it's all about choice and control. I remember that was a campaign when I used to work for Scope many moons ago, and it was very much about having choice and control. Whereas, you know, if it's purely like a residential home, or even certain care agencies that just like the carer is going to come in at whatever time and that's the end of it, and they've got to cook your dinner in 20 minutes and be gone again. Like it's not a good way for disabled people that need that level of care to live. So it's great that there are businesses like Care Preference that are aware of the context again, really, isn't it? It's the culture and the context is quite important.
I think it's like you said, it's the education around it as well, because I think like even going through this process to get my hours and to get my PAs that I've recently gone through, there was so much scaremongering, especially from, you know, parties that shouldn't be doing that kind of thing about going into residential care. I've got a 2-year-old son, and how would that work? And they mentioned child services and literally anything to put you off chasing for the support that you actually need. And I think that's what motivated me to get involved, because I will question people, but there are people that will think this is how it is, I'm going to end up in a care home. Not the case.
Yeah. No, I agree. We've actually got Baroness Campbell's on tomorrow, and she's like the ultimate fight the system, don't accept what you're told. It's going to be quite interesting to chat to Jane tomorrow. But as you say, it's an important trait to not accept what you're told and to ask questions and to push back, because otherwise you're not going to get where you want to go, basically, whether disabled or not as well.
Exactly. Well, when I started, I sort of had 6 hours support, which is just, like you said, not even enough time to, throughout a week, to cook dinner every day, let alone, personal care. Yeah. And now I'm fully supported now because of asking those questions and being able to fight and to say what you need. And it is liberating, like you say.
Yeah. We've got a few sort of comments and questions coming in. So Miles is saying, what are you doing today, Martin? Well, at the minute, I'm chatting with Kelly about all sorts of interesting topics, but good for you to join us, Miles. Chris is afternoon. We've addressed the morning to afternoon situation. And I loved your live, by the way, Chris. It was cool. You were chatting about Boris, Bleach, and North Korea or something on your post yesterday. I thought that was really interesting. Do you know Jordan, Kelly?
No, not yet. No, but I'm sure.
Okay. Well, Jordan has SMA, which is why I asked. And she's saying, I often have the disabled person identity crisis too, particularly around activism and friendships. I mean, obviously, we've just touched a bit on that, haven't we, Kelly, about, activism. It can be a job and it can be something that people do voluntarily, but very all day, every day. But then I think we all have to be activists, just as you say, to get the basic level of needs. You have to be quite fighty and get that support. So I think it is we have to be a bit activisty, but a lot of us don't want to be. We just want to get on and live a normal life, right?
That's it. Like, I think I've always struggled with activism and calling myself sort of that title, because it feels like you're just doing something to support yourself and others that should already be done.
Yeah.
And I always feel like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of just living my life. And I feel like putting that title on yourself gives a lot of pressure, because you feel like you should be making change. But sometimes I just think you don't know where to start, because there's still a lot that needs to be done. And I think it's all about education and the way people see things and the way they sort of deem things, I suppose, acceptable for disabled people when they have no real knowledge of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does a lot. It does. I mean, and I think like there's one level that you've already said about just asking questions, and like you are the expert in you. So it doesn't always have to be like human rights expert or social service, regulation expert. There are people that is their job. And I would definitely say to anyone watching that's got troubles in the care world around funding and support is do seek out that kind of help, because it does exist and it's good to have knowledge and support. But equally, like, you were saying you felt a bit, what do you know about it and all that kind of stuff. But you, right? You're the expert in you. And that's a big thing for me around the blogging, the sort of rise of social media, and what we're trying to do at Purple Goat is get society to understand that disabled people understand our needs more than anybody else could ever do.
Exactly. And just touching back on, people that can help with funding and fighting battles for you. Care Preference do have people that do that as well. Even it's definitely not me. I'll do it on sort of a level of what I know. But people that make that their job, and they're those people that have helped me. So I think if anyone does have any questions, I'm happy to chat after as well about, how we can potentially boost ours and help people, because that's sort of my main concern at the minute, especially with everything that's going on. There are people that don't have family support and don't have those networks that you can just call upon. We're trying to do as much for everybody as we can. So
we did a thing on Disability Horizons that was kind of a plan B. So it's sort of people have maybe made some different arrangements because of COVID-19, or maybe they're cracking on as they were. But if, say, a member of the team got COVID or got ill, it's obviously a bit harder at the moment. And so there are just different ways of trying to de-risk that. And I guess care preferences are another good solution if someone does find themselves in the shit, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And we're very able to just jump on just because of the size of the organization now as well. We've had a lot of people coming to us for help, and we want to help. I think that's the difference sometimes, isn't it? That you want to hear these stories and you want to help people.
Yeah.
And that is what we want to do. So I'm happy to help if I can with anything like that.
Brilliant.
Although it's difficult, like you say, if anybody does pick up the illness, I think there's a a huge thing about it as well, like a trust thing. And I think some people with PAs and sort of agency staff will be having to take that sort of leap of trust every day, and it's not easy. Must be quite draining, really.
Definitely. So we've got Juliet says very true, and you are the expert in you. So that's sort of agreeing to what we were saying before. And Emma's asking, does your company do live-in care?
Yeah, so we do. Basically, if you get 24-hour care, we work with the person ultimately, but the main way we do it, that for our service users that seem to work, is we'll do 3 PAs on 60-hour contracts. So it works out as you're with one PA for 48 hours, another PA for 48 hours, and then another one for 72, and then it will just be like a rota that rolls on and on. So we do the live-in care, but we do it with a few different people, which is quite nice as well, because you get a new face that you've sort of chosen every couple of days, which is nice, because I think living with one person all the time can be quite difficult and draining. So it's that fresh couple of days renew, which I found myself is great as well.
What would happen, because you mentioned about traveling like for work or holidays, presumably then 1 or 2 could do a longer shift in terms of going abroad or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. And on our sort of our abroad trips, it's always more of a case by case, depending on what the service user wants. But we usually send 2 PAs, or if it's a longer trip, we all do it so that basically one will go out, one will fly back, and they'll cross over, so that the service user always has that support. So we have facility to do all that as well, but it just depends how the service user wants to kind of address it and what they prefer. With myself, I've got PAs that I tend to take more on work trips, and then I've got PAs that I tend to use at home more, just because of their own personalities and what they're comfortable with as well.
Yeah, I found there's like it's personalities and even skills. So like one PA might be really great at cooking food, but hates housework or garden, or like, and then someone else is like, can knock up a ramp and do really DIY stuff, but just can't cook to save their life. And so you can kind of manage things around the different skills of different PAs as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good as well from, the other perspective of the PA working. They want to be doing things that they're interested in, but also, it's a great job because it's something different every day. And it's just living life with someone. It's like having a friend more than, like living with a friend. Like with me and my PAs, we all have dinner together, have a drink together and, relax. And it doesn't feel like that kind of environment where you just sort of, you're forced to be with someone and they're there just to help you, and there's no conversation and there's no bond. Do you know what I mean?
It matters, doesn't it? Yeah,
it really matters, and I think it's super important for people to consider. It's a really interesting path for people to go into that are looking for different employment as well.
Yeah, and so 2 more sort of quick questions on the care, and then we'll move on to another topic. So on a really personal level, I now live in a smaller town. Like I've lived, as I told you before, I studied in Coventry for 4 years. I lived in London for 5 years, and getting care support was quite easy because of the amount of people. But since I've been back in the town where I actually grew up, it's been harder to find the sort of people that are interested in doing care work. So how does the company manage recruitment, and is it harder in a sort of more rural area?
I think it can be. I think the way that we do it really is selling the people that are the service users and their interests, and making people aware that, you know, just because you're disabled doesn't mean that, one, you don't have a job, you don't do anything, you don't go on holidays. You know, some of our carers absolutely love like the lifestyle that we have, you know, like we both travel for work, we're out and about, we like going out, obviously not at the moment, but you know, that is attractive to people. And it's just speaking about what the job actually is, and again, it's just like an education piece about the lifestyle that they're looking to assist with. It's not all personal care 24/7. There's lots of different aspects, and it's a great job for giving different skills as well, and picking things that you don't know, you know, like a lot of my PAs travel with me, and they'll, you know, we'll go to nice restaurants, bars, things like that, and it's a really nice experience. It's a friendship, like I said before. So it's just about selling the job right, I think, as well. But it definitely is hard in smaller areas to kind of communicate that. But I think we're looking in terms of, you know, we've got quite a lot of different areas of the UK covered now, so we're getting people applying quite a lot once they see what we're about. So yeah, it
just takes a while to build that sort of thing up as well, I suppose. And just one other thing was to clarify, because I've got down the ticker tape at the bottom about, we're talking about running businesses, because I know you have over the years, but is Care Preference, you don't own that, is that right?
No, I don't know. I just work with a guy called Neil owns Care Preference, and he's absolutely fantastic. He's the guy that I would tell you about if you wanted to sort of pursue hours and you know, that kind of thing. He's really clued up in terms of rights of what people are entitled to. So it's his company. Cool. I'm just promoting.
No, and I think, like, you know, we talked about entrepreneurship. I think you can be entrepreneurial within an employed role anyway. I don't think it's binary in that sense. But I know, like, as you were sort of alluding to, you've done your own entrepreneurial ventures in the past too. But I just thought it was good to clarify that Care Preference, as you say, is you work with them and very passionate about what they do. So a couple of comments. I love you, Martin. That's my cousin David. So that's a bit of a cheat in terms of it's not a random fan, but love you too, David. Good to see you on there. And John said, just switched off Prime Minister's question time so I can hear this properly. Much more interesting. So glad that we're beating Boris in the ratings anyway.
Maybe that'll be my next job then.
You never know. Dream big.
Now.
So I think one more thing on the job front, not around the care, but job, was just about the talent sort of side of life. So you've supported mainstream, like, non-disabled footballers in the concierge business, and I know more recently you've done some work with Louise Dyson at Visible. Just be great just to give a little bit about that part of your life. But I think people probably don't realize that disabled people have agents in some instances as well, which is quite cool.
Definitely, it's really cool. And I'm represented by Louise as well, which is great. So it's kind of a double sort of partnership there. But I started.
We haven't even got on to being a parent yet.
I know. But as you say, I started in mainstream football. My dad was a professional footballer, and I've always been in the world of sport anyway. But that was a really interesting job for my early 20s. I had my own concierge company, and we were running a contract for basically an agency that had 250 professional footballers on its books. So it was just me to begin with, really intense, but I loved it. And that's the kind of job that I like, fast paced, you know.
What was the weirdest thing you had to do?
God, weirdest. Okay, basically, I had one of my clients ring me and ask if they got a chimney in their house, which was strange. I don't know if they were waiting for Christmas or something, but
Yeah.
that was a bit strange. It was just kind of last minute stuff, and I think that's why I did quite well, because like we said earlier about the problem solving part of things, it was always, I was at a family event and my phone would be ringing off the hook and I'd be sorting somebody else's problems out, and that's the bit that I enjoy, because there's like a gratification that comes with that as well. Being able to sort of jump on a task and get it completed, which I still do now, but on a very different level for a 2-year-old son. So you know, it's one of those, it's taught me a lot of skills as well. In terms of, I think, concierge, but also disability, that was, I think, for my early 20s, that was a big struggle for me, because I had, you know, a successful company that was supporting these people in the public eye, and I was really self-conscious about my disability, because a lot of the time you were, you know, talking on the phone, texting, getting things done, and then I thought, oh my God, I've got to go and do this client's review at their house, and is it wheelchair accessible?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
There was always those kind of questions, and then also going to client pickups. I remember one I went to in Cartier to collect a product that I'd sourced for a client's wife, and I went through the door looking as I do, you know, always got a beanie on, tattoos, whatever, in a chair. And it was almost like, are you in the right place? And I think you've just got to go in there and be yourself, because then you will just get sort of trampled. But by the end of it, I came out with 2 bottles of champagne for myself and a ring cleaning kit, so I didn't do too badly. But it's just, you know, you sit down, you chat to people, and you make them realize that, you know, you're not just a wheelchair, as we often get called. Sadly, still, it's my biggest pet hate. And you know, you've got those abilities to run businesses and have contacts, because why wouldn't you?
No, I totally agree. And so on the talent side, what sort of things are you doing that you said Louise represents you? So what kind of work do you get under that guise? And also just give a little bit of info for people that don't know what Visible People do as well.
Yeah, Visible People, they're great. They've been in the game for 25 years, which I think is really progressive anyway. I think mainstream media are starting to wake up to the fact that people with disabilities exist and can promote things, and, you know, do really well and be really talented, disabled or not. So I think it's so important that these people have representation. In terms of my own representation, it's a bit of everything, really. Anything that Louise asked me to do, I'll try and turn my hand to it. But I've done previously photography work, presenting work, radio, you know, any sort of opportunity.
The media and speaking kind of stuff, yeah,
definitely. Roles and
amazing.
And I know you're the same yourself.
I don't know, I've probably not mentioned it on the Daily Sib, but Louise represents me. So when I do some of the media and speaking work, that's, you know, been with her. And obviously when you've been helping her out with bits and bobs, we've spoke, and I think you were helping me with my doing a talk up in Manchester. You were giving me help doing that, weren't you? So
so we represent anyone really from sort of, it is mainly media and acting, modeling as well, but there's fantastic people reaching out to her every day with great campaigns. So it's really important that you can apply. You can just go on Visible's website and put through a quick application if it's something that you're interested in, and all these opportunities can be thrown at you, and, you know, if you're ready, you can take them. So it's really great that there's somebody out there doing that as well.
Definitely. Louise is amazing. She's a powerhouse and a force to be reckoned with, and you say very progressive, because my understanding was she founded the company when she was doing more mainstream non-disability representation, and someone asked for a disabled model, and it was like, oh, well, you know, where do we find a disabled model? And then she saw that there was a mass underrepresentation, but a massive opportunity, which is back to our thing about entrepreneurship as well, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, she had a really successful, like you say, mainstream agency to begin with, and then she's just gone from there, which is fantastic for everybody
Yeah.
involved.
Awesome. Well, we got about 10 minutes. So I've got to head off a little bit earlier today for a client call. But yeah, last 10 minutes would be great just to hear a bit more around I mean, you sort of touched upon dating and relationships, so go into that as much or as little as you want. But I think the big thing obviously is that you're a mum now, and you know, it'd be interesting to hear a bit about that part of life too.
Yeah, definitely. I think, oh God, where to begin? This we've
Yeah.
been 10 minutes for this one. I think that for me, I think thing that I get asked quite a lot is about dating and things, because
It's quite taboo, isn't it, with this?
yeah, it's very taboo, and like I said to you before, I do a lot of work with Enhance the UK, and they're really raise awareness around this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that comes with not just dating and disability, but sex and disability, and people's, like we said before, human rights as well.
Yeah.
I find really interesting. But for myself, I think the biggest part of my, I suppose, dating journey, it was just self-acceptance. Like,
Yeah,
I think
so true.
it is, isn't it? And it's like, when you're younger, growing up, I think it's hard enough anyway to get that self-image and to portray yourself as you actually are.
Yeah.
But I think from discovering that is why I've, been just sort of more confident with that kind of thing and putting myself out there. But I think there's a lot of people that do struggle because they think, people are going to see my disability first, or I don't know how to deal with this situation, or, but I think it's just that confidence and self-belief, and, it's something that you do every day anyway without realizing it.
Yeah.
So you get to grips with that, I think, you're good to go in a sense. But, there was that many questions and things that I had to ask myself and there's somebody at my door.
You need to go.
I'm sitting literally right in front of my door. Yeah, so basically it's just for me like that self-acceptance and being able to ask for what you need, just in terms of dating, as well as, things like not putting yourself into dangerous situations. I was the worst for just taking risks, putting myself out there, and I think now, oh my God, why did I do that?
It's interesting, isn't it? That kind of naivety of youth, but equally it's adventure of youth as well.
Definitely. Oh, it's so important that you do it, but I just think now, oh my God, that was so safe, and you let somebody help you out your chair that you met like not that long ago, and they could be a serial killer. But like you say, it's that naivety. But then if you don't do that, then what are your options?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot about trust as well. It's like, I mean by that in the bigger picture of the world. Like, of course, there are horror stories, and of course, you have to de-risk and be a bit careful of what situations you get into. But at the same time, most of the time this stuff goes fine and it's all good fun. And even if you get a bit hurt by a loved one, by a partner, like that's all part of coming of age as well, isn't it?
Definitely. I think a lot of people anyway struggle with that. I was watching some sort of trashy reality show the other day, and they were saying, I've been hurt once before, so I'm not going to try it again. And it's like, well, why not?
Yeah.
You've got to sometimes go through that to get to where you want to be, and to find things out about yourself as well. So, and
I suppose it's the same with like having care or different jobs and all that kind of stuff. It's that same sort of vibe, isn't it? But I think when it's around love and particularly sex, there's obviously another level of like cautiousness you have to have, really.
Definitely. You do need to protect yourself, but then you need to allow yourself to have those experiences. And it's the line that comes between those two things, isn't it? That can sometimes be unclear.
I've got, you had someone knock at your door.
Yeah.
I've got my 3-4-year-old nephew banging at the window now. And my stepbrother told him, I just checked Facebook and God, he's on alive.
Oh. Well, we can wrap up whenever you need to, if you need
No,
to.
I think they've headed off, and I've got a few more. But yeah, I think on the dating, sex, relationships, Enhance the UK is a good place for people maybe with a disability that have got questions to get a bit more information. But I think you've brought up some really important points there about, just living, and that, you do have to some degree take risks in life, and that's no different when you have a disability. And sometimes things will go wrong, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I suppose the other part was about having a family and being a parent. I mean, was there any on the SMA, the health side, were there any more concerns about being pregnant and giving birth, or was that quite straightforward?
And there's a great group on Facebook, SMA Mums, or I think it's SMA Mars actually, because it's an American group. But they really gave me some useful information to begin with. But I think the thing is, as you'll know with SMA as well, is that it's really hard to give a one-size-fits-all answer, because everybody's progression's different, everybody's type's different in a way. People have got different abilities because of that. So really it was a very scary journey for me, because I really didn't know how my body was going to deal with it. And also doctors didn't really know. I went to just a mainstream hospital, and although I was under what they call sort of consultant watch, they didn't know anything about SMA in terms of they weren't specialists. And it was more like, well, we don't know if you'll be able to give birth naturally. We don't know if we need to do a C-section. We don't know if you'll be able to be awake for the C-section because you've got scoliosis. So there was just so many questions that were just mind-blowing. But I think the important thing from that group is that there were people there saying, no matter what sort of result you get, it's fine as long as
there's always a way.
Yeah. So I think that helped me, because I was sometimes in tears thinking, well, what's going to happen to me? I'm kind of in this situation now. It's got to end at some point, but how is it going to end? And am I safe? And can I cope? But I had Mason through general anaesthetic and a C-section in the end, after going through a whole natural delivery as well. So basically I went through the whole of natural labour to find out that, not because of my SMA, but it wasn't happening. So then I had to have the C-section under general anaesthetic, which is not what I wanted at all. But once I was, awake and with it, which was pretty quick, it's like a 35-minute operation. It took me a bit longer to be with it, I think, after that, because of hospital drugs and things. But after that, you've got your experience. It's maybe not what you wanted or how you pictured it, but you've got your baby there safely and you're safe, and your family are allowed to visit and things like that, and it's something that you'll remember for the rest of your life. So it doesn't really matter the mode of how it all happens, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of all the things we've spoke about today, the different parts of life, there is quite an overarching philosophy that, everything is possible. You get there in the end. It might take longer. It might be a different way to what someone with a disability has. And actually, it's all very much a human experience, isn't it?
Definitely. And it's about sort of accepting that and being able to come to terms with that as well. Because I think, it can be one of those things where you think, oh, I wish this had happened, or I wish I could do this. But what's the point in living like that? Like you say, we can do anything is possible. So get there in your own way and in your own time. I think that's the point of life, isn't it, really?
Definitely. I totally agree with you. And so how's it been, since Mason's been born? And is it 2 now, did you say?
He's 2.5 nearly now. Crazy.
I mean, how's it been interact? I'm not a dad yet, but I hope to be enough to be one day. But we've got nieces and nephews in the family, and so I've seen with all of them, there's that they're really tiny and they can sort of sit, on my tray on my arms and have a bit of a cuddle. And then it's harder to interact. But then as they get more physically able, they really adapt to you in the wheelchair and sort of how to get cuddles and get assistance as well. I mean, how have you found that?
I think for the first part, you know, the newborn part,
yeah,
it's probably easier for me because I can lift a certain amount of weight and stuff like that. So that was easier. But then when it got to 6 months, 9 months, that was the part where I asked myself so many questions, because it is an element of, you know, you've got to keep this kid safe, and he's trying to roll off the table while you're trying to change him. You know what I mean? It becomes more hard. But now, like the 2.5 stage, even from, I'd say like 1.5, 2, he's got that ability to walk around and be active, and to understand that you can do certain things but you can't do others. Like now he'll just jump out of the high chair onto me, and that's fine. But before, if I had to physically lift him, strap him in, it's not possible. So it's like we get our own little method, and he uses that against me as well. If he doesn't want me to place him somewhere, he'll put toys in. So he's picked up on it really quickly, and he's got his little step as well that he'll bring around with him to, you know, get a certain toy out or to climb into the cot or whatever. He's just crazy. So he's adapted as well, and that's only going to help him, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure back to that whole challenges and problem solving, you've got lots of ways of doing it, lots of people around you to support you as well. Yeah,
definitely. And having that support, you know, from PAs and stuff as well, I think that's really important, because I think every parent should have that support, just from a perspective of taking care of themselves. Because after I had my self-care just fell to the wayside. I didn't have any PA, so I wasn't drinking enough. I wasn't going to the toilet. I ended up in hospital with sepsis. It's just, it was a real bad journey to begin with, because you put in that kid first, and that means you're coming last, especially when your needs take a little bit longer as well. But now having the PAs just for mental support as well, sometimes it's just a godsend, especially during lockdown with a 2-year-old. So.
Well, yeah, another added layer of complexity at the moment, but hopefully that is all gonna, well, eventually pass, and we'll be back out in the real world again one day.
One day, yeah, hopefully.
Well, listen, Kelly, I've really loved chatting with you today. There's so many interesting topics and your story and life experience. It's been very, very nice chat. Is there anything you want to finish off by saying, and like where can people follow you, or, you know, ask questions afterwards as well?
Yeah, sure. Just my Twitter and Instagram is just at Kelly Peebs, which is Peebz. So if they can reach out to me on there, I'm happy to point in direction of any company that I work with, or anyone that can help with support as well. But also answering any questions, you know, on a personal level, I'm happy to do so.
Oh, that's really kind of you. Well, good luck with everything. I'm excited to see how it all plays, and, you know, how Mason's getting on, and, you know, definitely come back on the show if you've got any other news in the future as well.
I do, for sure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Take care, Kelly. I'll see you soon.
Yes, bye.
And thanks everyone for watching. And as I say, tomorrow we've got Baroness Jane Campbell, so do tune in at midday for that. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment and ask questions, and Kelly and I can keep an eye if there's anything on that thread as well. So yeah, take care for now. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.